I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. Ann Arbor's dedication to sustainability is more important than ever with the drastic changes we have experienced in the environmental realm in recent years. Watch as the city brings life-changing technologies to the forefront during the Green Fair.
It's the mayor's Autumnal Green Fair. There are a lot of nonprofits and I think for-profit vendors who are involved in various aspects of sort of green and sustainable work.
We need to reduce our carbon emissions is kind of the main overarching goal of the 820 plan is to get to community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030.
We provide resources on how to build rain gardens. We do design assistance visits. We'll advise homeowners on how to build a rain garden. And we manage and monitor over 100 gardens, publicly owned gardens here in the county.
One of the easiest changes that you can make is to help improve the environment and help reduce carbon emissions is actually to eat less animal-based food products and eat more plant-based food products.
We empower people to ride their bikes and keep their bikes maintained. Transportation is one of the biggest sectors of carbon emissions. Comment cycle, we're addressing one particular barrier. We basically don't want people to ever be in a position of not riding their bike because it's broken.
So a great way for us to kind of highlight all the organizations. We have collaborators network for the 820 program. That most, if not all, of the folks that are here tonight are a part of that collaborators network. So it's a really great opportunity for us to get them out and talking to the folks as well and just really engage with the public about everything that we're working on.
Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more in exactly 30 seconds. Ann Arbor is home to more than 160 parks with scenic views, places to play, and some top-notch facilities. See all that Mack Indoor Pool has to offer during this Park Peak. Mack Indoor Pool is the only City of Ann Arbor Park's indoor public pool and offers a variety of programs and opportunities for every swimmer. The pool is located inside of Mack School, which is known today as Ann Arbor Open at Mack School. The school was originally built in 1922, and in the years since, it has gone from being Ann Arbor's newest school building to its oldest. The pool, added in 1974, features a 6-lane, 25-yard main pool with an attached 30 by 42-foot children's tot pool. A ramp leading into the pool provides for easy accessibility. The heated indoor pool provides a summer-like experience even in the cold winter months. For more, visit a2gov.org/Mack. With over 250 members of the community serving on boards, commissions, and committees, you too can have your voice heard through civic engagement. Learn how in this month's City Roundup in 60.
Hi, my name is Robert Malkai with the City of Ann Arbor Clerk's Office, here today to tell you about joining a board or commission. One of the best ways to engage with the city, advocate for positive change, and make your voice heard is to join a board or commission. With over 60 boards and commissions ranging from public art to human rights, we have boards and commissions for a wide range of policy interests. To learn more about our many boards and commissions, visit a2gov.legistar.com. Click on Boards and Commissions. Here, you can see all our boards, read a short description of them, and find contact information for each. Most boards have links that will take you to their webpage with more information. Those interested can click the Apply button in the top right corner. If you are interested in seeing current vacancies, under Boards and Commissions, click Vacancies. Here, you can see if any boards have an immediate opening and if the openings are for a specific position. Even if there is not a vacancy at the time, we'll leave your application on file for when a seat comes available. We look forward to seeing your application.
In 2017, voters approved a millage to support services dedicated to mental health of county residents. These dollars have been hard at work creating a safer place for people to have necessary services to support people of all ages and income levels suffering with mental health. Joining me is Lisa Gentz, Program Administrator for Washtenaw County Community Mental Health, here to give us an update on how the millage has made a difference. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me today, Dana. It is a pleasure to be here.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the millage is and sort of how it started and when the dollars started working for the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So this millage went before voters back in 2017. And at that time, we had identified that we didn't have, mental health needs are frequently underfunded nationally, but they very much so were in our state. And our community really made a commitment, and actually our voters said in a resounding approval, a 2-to-1 vote to approve the millage, that they wanted to invest their taxpayer dollars in supporting individuals to access mental health resources in our community. At that particular time, our community mental health, though the name is community, we were only able to serve a very limited portion of the community. It was only for those individuals who had Medicaid as their primary funding source. But now, as a result of the millage, we were able to expand access to services, and we've able to serve twice as many people as we were able to serve prior to the millage. But ultimately, back in 2017, after the voters approved the millage, there was a large convening of community stakeholders to really get a sense of what the community wanted and how they wanted to see these funds invested. And they laid out an 11-point strategy and really outlined some scaffolding for how they wanted the investments to take place. But resoundingly, we heard that the community wanted to see the ability to have early access to care and 24/7 access to care if they were, or their loved one or their neighbor was in some kind of a mental health crisis. And we've been able to do all of that as a result of these funds.
So when did, the millage took effect, 2017 it was voted on, but when did we actually start seeing the funds and when did they start working for us?
Sure. So in 2019, we received our first distribution of funds. And that's really when we were able to get these services, start to get these services up and running. And only a portion of the services or of the funds really go to expanding access to care. Another portion of those funds really go to some of those underlying things that really impact an individual's ability to maintain their recovery. So some of those key things are around supported housing and ensuring that people have access to safe housing in the community that helps to provide them with supports if they're struggling to maintain that housing as a result of their mental health or substance use issue. But the millage funds over a dozen community-based organizations that are providing services in a whole bunch of different areas in terms of youth mental health services, supported housing services, collaborative projects that allow public safety and mental health clinicians to respond together in the community to really try to keep individuals living with a mental health or substance use issue out of the criminal legal system and into mental health services instead. But also around educating and informing our community. We really heard from the community that we needed to address some of those root causes that prevented people from feeling comfortable reaching out when they needed care or were struggling with mental health issues themselves. And so a lot of what the millage does is really to inform the community to reduce stigma related to mental health conditions, and then train the community on how to respond if they themselves or their loved one or their neighbor is struggling and what can they do by providing them with evidence-based training called mental health first aid.
You know, I will say I'm not someone that will automatically vote yes on every millage, because I feel like there's a lot of people in this area that are like, oh, yeah, whatever. But I felt like this one was really important, because I do agree that for many years, there was a stigma related to mental health, and it was something that you had to struggle with alone. And that's where you'd see like suicide rates go up and just depression and all this stuff. But I think it's so amazing now that we can talk about our mental health and not have to feel like there's something wrong with us if we actually need help.
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest barriers oftentimes to individuals reaching out. And one of the things that I think is so important for people to realize about these illnesses is that they're treatable. There are medications, there's therapy interventions. There are so many proven interventions that an individual can engage in that will help them recover. Recovery is possible, and it's part of, so many individuals live with mental health conditions in our community, and you would never know because they're living in recovery and they've been able to get access to care and get treatment. And so that was one of the really big things that we've been able to do with these funds, is to offer that level of support to anyone in our community. Our community mental health now, like I said, has been able to, serve twice as many people as we were able to prior to the millage. And we are seeing a substantial increase in individuals who don't have any insurance being able to access care, which is so incredibly significant. And not only that, like being able to respond right when someone needs it. That was something we were seeing quite frequently as a problem prior to the millage, was that individuals were delaying accessing care. And then their illness was becoming so significant that they needed a hospital, an emergency room setting, or a hospital stay. These services allow people to reach out right when they need it and get access to care right away. Or if they are in crisis, a master's trained clinician can be accessed and can come out to their home and provide them with assessment, help them navigate a very complicated system of care, the mental health system, help them navigate that, help inform them of what their choices are about how they want to take the next steps to addressing their needs. It really is fantastic, the level of care that has been able to be provided as a result.
Let's say, for instance, someone is having an episode, they need help pretty quickly. Do they contact your organization, the county health department, and then you will, you said you work with like 12 organizations in the county. So you will lead them to the next steps?
Well, so we have a 24/7 phone line that people can call, and they can reach us by calling 544-3050. That number is answered 24/7. And by calling that number, they get immediate access to individuals who help them navigate the mental health system. So they can tell that individual, they can tell that person what's going on, what kind of help they need. And then we have master's trained clinicians who are available to be dispatched into the community at any hour of the day to help them if it's determined that they are in an immediate crisis. But you can also reach our team by calling the national hotline, 988. You will be routed to a central entry point that is regionally based across the state of Michigan, but ultimately they will hand you off to our local team that then can be dispatched to help you.
Before we started, you actually said you were working in the jail right now, and that is part of where these millage dollars are at work. Why don't you tell us what you're doing in the jail?
Sure. So we have had a mental health team here in the jail for many years, actually. One of the things that we see nationwide is that it's a result of an individual not receiving treatment for their mental health or substance use disorder. They interface very frequently with the criminal legal system. So we see an overrepresentation of people with mental health issues finding their way into the court system or into our local jails, and even sometimes to our state level prison. Michigan is not unique in this, but one of the things that we've been able to do with these millage initiatives, or with these millage funds, is create some very creative projects that help us to directly address that. And some of those strategies have been by creating a reentry team here at the sheriff's office, that helps people reenter safely from the jail back into the community, and address some of those frequent needs that we see, like safe housing, continuing access to care. You know, one of the special things that we have here is a lot of jails will contract with a national organization to provide their mental health support. But here in Washtenaw County, they contract with community mental health because this is the agency that's going to continue to treat them when they're in the community, which is something that's really special about the sheriff's office here in our local jail. But we've created two really neat projects. One is called the Crisis Response Unit. That's where we have actually paired one of our crisis clinicians in a car with a specially trained sheriff's office deputy. And they are working in the community to be dispatched by 911 to mental health specific calls. And both of them have received special training to know how to navigate that crisis, to navigate the mental health system, and help address those root causes that may be the underpinning for why someone is reaching out for support through 911. So that is one of them. That's our Crisis Response Unit, or CREW, we like to call it. We also have another program called Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion and Deflection, or LEAD. And that is actually where we train local law enforcement officers. We are doing this under a pilot just in Ypsilanti Township. They're looking to expand it countywide, where we've trained officers that when they encounter someone in the community that may be engaging in some low-level activity, like may have some, drugs on them, or maybe loitering somewhere, but usually as the result of their mental health or substance use disorder, they're able to immediately call a team that can take that individual and start addressing those root cause needs instead of processing them through the criminal legal system. And this is a really exciting pilot because it's a joint venture between our public defender's office, our prosecutor's office, the sheriff's office, and CMH. And so we're really working comprehensively together to try to prevent what tends to happen, which is the more that somebody gets tangled in the criminal legal system with a mental health condition, the harder it is for them to get out. So we see more trips to the jail. We see more issues where they keep coming back over and over again instead of just really able to address those treatment issues and get them connected so they can have their needs met effectively.
What are some of the programs that you're doing with the youth in the county too? And I think this is actually really important because I went to a high school. I graduated in 2000, and I went to a high school that was actually dubbed Suicide High because we had so many suicides in a short period of time. When I was I think I was in 10th grade at the time, and it was almost like they were one suicide opened the door for the others. They're like, oh, if I can do this, then. And this is like something now that I'm a mother, I can't imagine losing my kid to something like that. It's so sad to me. So it's nice to know that there is something in place for kids, because I feel like a lot of times they can't or won't talk to us about it, their parents.
You are spot on about that. They frequently won't. And one of the things that we found out, we started what was called right at the beginning of the Millage, what we called Wish You Knew campaign, in which we really went out and tried to hear from the youth in our community what it was that they were hoping that the adults in their lives would know about what they were dealing with when it came to mental health. And really what they shared with us was that it wasn't their fellow teens who were stigmatizing. It was that when they brought forward to a trusted adult that they were struggling with their mental health, a lot of the adults in their lives were stigmatizing to them. And so we knew we needed to not only beef up the ability for teens to respond to each other, but then also for the adults in our communities to be able to respond effectively to youth. So we partnered with the Washtenaw Intermediate School District, or the WISD, and have built out a whole host of support. So one of the big things that we did was to create a team of general education social workers. I don't think I realized until doing some of this work that a lot of the social workers that are in school are there to really help students who have education plans, or maybe who are living with intellectual or developmental disabilities or struggling in school, but not to address some of the mental health needs that a lot of our local schools are dealing with their students. And this team of social workers is now able to respond to all the districts across the county and provide increased mental health support. We also have provided funds to each of our local, last year we did middle schools and high schools, to engage in youth-led anti-stigma campaigns. So student groups get together, and they are able to receive a small pot of funds, up to $5,000, to do anti-stigma efforts focused directly at their school and come up with really creative ways to deal with mental health needs of their fellow students. So we've seen schools invest that in getting therapy dogs. We've seen schools invest those funds in creating calming mindfulness rooms within the school, so that if a student is struggling, they can go to this place within their own school to receive support. And ultimately, providing more education to students and to their parents so that they can know how to effectively respond when a young person comes to us and says, I'm really having a hard time. What do I do? And so those are just some of the things, but we are building out that level of support, because what we found is that those mental health needs really start to present themselves in schools, and our school teams are just not equipped to deal with it. And so we need to provide them with additional support to be able to do that. We knew we were seeing a rise in youth mental health needs prior to the pandemic. We've only seen a significant exacerbation in that post-pandemic. And I feel so grateful to our community and to the voters, because if we didn't have these funds, I don't know how well our community would be able to respond to this increased need. Now, mind you, it isn't solving all of the problems. We still have a substantial amount of work to do, but I feel like our community is so fortunate that we have been able to respond in the way that we have as those needs are increasing.
Can you talk about the education to the community aspect of it, where it's not necessarily the people that are needing the services, but it's people knowing about the services and how they can help?
Yeah, so we partnered with the National Alliance for Mental Illness, which is one of the most reputable national organizations that helps to reduce stigma, that provides support to families, to individuals who are living with an illness themselves, and has a whole host of evidence-based interventions that can help communities. And we partnered with them to be able to expand their ability to provide these amazing resources to our community. So the National Alliance for Mental Illness Washtenaw County chapter is providing a whole host of supports. Support groups. They do different lectures in schools, and are really trying to get out in the community to spread information and reduce stigma. But we also have made it available on a monthly basis. We offer free to our community mental health first aid training. And that is an evidence-based training that really equips individuals, kind of similar to doing CPR and first aid. It's the same kind of approach, but to address somebody who's in a mental health crisis. And we offer that free once a month. And our community can access that by going to our CMH website to sign up for one of those trainings, and it will be at absolutely no cost to them. And then we also offer youth mental health first aid through a partnership with the ISD. So they are training school staff, coaches, parents to be able to identify and provide that same level of first aid to youth. One of the other things that I just want to show up here really quick is NAMI put together this, what they call Taking Care. It's a guide for mental health for everybody. And it's a very practical Washtenaw County guide that walks people through kind of step by step. If you or your loved one needs to take someone to an emergency room for a mental health crisis, here's where those emergency rooms are, and here's what you can expect. If you need to call 911, here's what you can expect from that experience. If you need to call our crisis team. So it's a really usable guide that our community now has access to help them sort of answer all those mysterious questions around what's going to happen next. Because we have sort of put mental health in the shadows for such a long time, many of us don't know how to access that system of care, what to do first, who to call. And this guide is just incredibly user friendly and helps walk people through that and navigate that process. So I encourage everybody to visit the NAMI Washtenaw County's website and view this guide. It's a really handy tool that is excellent.
Well, we're just about out of time, but before we go, I would like you to talk about why this millage is so important to the community, because we're going to have to pass it again at some point.
Yes, no, it would be my pleasure. I mean, even beyond the things that I've talked about, we know that mental health needs are so extensive in our community. 1 in 5 individuals will be diagnosed with a mental health condition at any given time, meaning that, any one of us can sit here and identify that us ourselves have struggled, our loved one, our spouse, our, family member, our neighbor. It is the great equalizer. And if you haven't encountered it yet, I guarantee you will throughout the course of your life. These are services that everybody needs. And for various reasons throughout history, we have not done enough to support these needed services like we have other health conditions. And so I really hats off to our community for seeing that this was such a needed investment. And we have only started to scratch the surface. One of the other things that we do are perpetually evaluating the investments that we have made and continuing to update what those needs are, because as we plug one hole, another one presents itself. And the real beauty of these funds is there's flexibility allowing us to quickly respond and meet the needs that are now emerging. I mean, none of us knew in 2018 we would be facing a pandemic and we would see an exacerbation of mental health needs post that, or as we're emerging from that. And these funds have allowed us to respond in such a significant way.
Well, I want to thank you, Lisa, for coming on the show, because I think it's imperative to have this discussion about where these mental health millage dollars have gone, because if people don't know where they're going, then they're not going to want to pass it again. And it's obviously made a huge impact on the community. And I'm sure as time goes on, you'll be able to expand if we continue to pass the millage.
Absolutely. We put out an annual report every year, and you can access that annual report by visiting our Washtenaw County Community Mental Health webpage. And you'll see a tab there that says millage, and you can see the impact of these investments year after year. And so I really encourage everybody to go and view that so that they're educated to do a vote process, but also at the same time, I want to really thank you for giving time to this topic. It's so incredibly important.
Well, thank you again. For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time to FYI.